What's up guys, Mike here, and I am very excited for today's video because I think it's pretty unique. We're going to be looking at NBA trades that at the time were considered game-changing. You know, they were hyped up as trades that could eventually win a team a championship, but instead they either blew up in those teams' faces completely or just kind of became irrelevant. So we are going to get into that in a second. For now though, I do want to say right now, at this exact moment, I am streaming on Twitch. I'm going to be playing NBA 2K20 all night at twitch.tv/Mike Korzemba, and sometime in the stream I should hit 10,000 followers, and as soon as I do, I'm going to be choosing someone in the chat and giving them a throwback NBA jersey. So come watch me stream, twitch.tv/Mike Korzemba. It's always a good time. I want to hang, I want to hear your guys' questions, I want to hear you call me, you know, thick. I've been reading the comments, but other than that, I hope you enjoy the video. Number 4. Shaquille O'Neal to the Phoenix Suns. You know when they say player X fit like a square peg in a round hole? That was the 36-year-old Shaquille O'Neal when he was traded to the Phoenix Suns during the 2008 trade deadline. Immediately at the time, people questioned why Phoenix, an extremely fast-paced team, wanted a slow and aging Shaq, and those people would prove to be right in questioning the Suns' decision. Now, in defense for the Suns here, they did acquire Shaq because their roadblock had always been the San Antonio Spurs. Phoenix believed that Shaq was going to be the one to get them over the hump. They thought that Shaq's presence in the post on both offense and defense would slow down Tim Duncan and could potentially get them into the finals. However, it became very apparent when Shaq arrived that it was not Tim Duncan that O'Neal would be stopping, it was instead the Phoenix Suns offense. Shaq could clearly not keep up with a team that was deemed the 7 seconds or less Suns, and to only really clogged the lane, completely ruining the offensive flow of Phoenix's offense and really disrupting Steve Nash's game in general. Also, to make things even worse here, Tim Duncan and the Spurs easily cruised past Phoenix in the first round of the playoffs that season, proving that this trade just did not work out at all. Then the following year, Shaq himself had one of his best individual seasons in ages, as he would average 17.8 points and 8.4 rebounds a game on 61% shooting along the way to becoming an all-star and being named to the All-NBA third team. Unfortunately, this would come at the expense of his own team's success, as the Phoenix Suns would go from winning 61 games in 2007 to just 46 in 2009 while also missing the playoffs completely. Then, as if to completely prove it was Shaq that was the problem, the very next year in 2010 with Shaq on the Cavs, the Suns would reach the Western Conference Finals. Yikes. Has to make you wonder what could have been if Phoenix had just kept Marion. Before we continue guys, I am happy to say that this video is sponsored by SeatGeek. Now, SeatGeek is an app that takes all of the best ticket prices from around the internet and puts them all in one place for you to get the best deal. It's also so easy to see what the best deals are because SeatGeek scores every ticket from 0 to 100 based on how good that ticket's price is. Another cool thing about SeatGeek is that when you're choosing your ticket, you can actually see what the view would look like from the ticket you're about to buy. And to me, that's awesome because you get to see what experience you'd have from those seats. So if you want the best tickets for the best prices, download SeatGeek right now and use the promo code 2KMike for $20 off your first order. Also, the link to SeatGeek will be in the description. And for now, by the way, speaking of Shawn Marion, he did do just fine in South Beach, as while he didn't replicate the same stats he did in Phoenix, he did establish himself as a decent player on an okay Heat team in 2009 before getting traded away to the Toronto Raptors. The thing is though, the Heat really did not benefit at all from the addition of Shawn Marion, as the man they traded him for in 2009, a 30-year-old Jermaine O'Neal, would prove to be nowhere near the level of player that even a 36-year-old Shaq was. So, in the end here, the Heat would have been better off with Shaq, and the Suns would have been better off with Shawn Marion, making this the ideal trade for this video. Number 3, Scottie Pippen to the Houston Rockets. Do you lose a trade if you weren't really trying to win in the first place? Ask the 1999 Chicago Bulls that question, as with Michael Jordan retired and Phil Jackson out of the picture, the Bulls were ready to move on entirely from their dynasty, which meant it was only a matter of time before Scottie Pippen would follow suit. The Bulls did eventually make a move move when they traded Scottie Pippen to the Houston Rockets, and so let's just get this out of the way right now. The Bulls got next to nothing for Scottie Pippen. They acquired Roy Rogers and Jake Vashkul. I'm not sure I'm saying that correctly, but because both of those players played a combined 17 games for my favorite team, the Chicago Bulls, we can safely say that Chicago did not win this trade, and that I personally don't mind if I'm ruining that man's last name. Moving on here, it is a little odd that someone like Pippen would be sold for that little, but again, in Chicago's eyes, it was time to move on and just build a new team. As for Houston, when they acquired Scottie, the Rockets hoped that he, along with a 36-year-old Hakeem Olajuwon and Charles Barkley, would form a good enough trio to help the Rockets win another title before all three of these legends retire. And in that next year, the shortened lockout season, Scottie Pippen was his usual jack-of-all-trades wing. Along with his excellent defense, he would go on to average 14.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, and almost 6 assists a game for a Rockets team that would go 31-19. On paper, this should have been a success, but it was the ongoing beef between Scottie Pippen and Charles Barkley that would ruin everything. That is why the Rockets could not call themselves winners in this trade, as the very next season, after not winning a championship with Houston, Scottie would leave for the Portland Trailblazers, and Charles Barkley had some words for him. Chuck would publicly say about Scottie,
"I gave up more than anybody to get Scottie, and for him to want to leave after 1 year just disappointed me greatly."
Meanwhile, Scottie would reply with,
"Very selfish guy. He doesn't show me the desire to want to win. I wouldn't get Charles Barkley an apology at gunpoint. He could never expect an apology from me. If anything, he owed me an apology for coming and play with his sorry fat butt."
Scottie gets his wish.
Get him, Scottie. Honestly, that quote is pretty hilarious, not gonna lie. And the thing is, Scottie Pippen did apologize to Charles Barkley, presumably not at gunpoint, so obviously emotions were running high there, but again, even though the Rockets did have a good season with Scottie, this is the reason why both teams did not win this trade. Scottie and Chuck just did not work out, and I've gotta say, low blow there. Attacking the fat butt might have went too far. Number 2, Jeff Green to the Boston Celtics. Back in 2011, the Boston Celtics and Oklahoma City Thunder both thought they were making the right move when the Celtics traded Kendrick Perkins to the Thunder for Jeff Green. Now, the reason both teams made this move is that they both felt they needed a change. If you don't remember, Boston was coming off a time where they were watching the Lakers win the last 2 championships, and despite the fact that Kendrick Perkins was seen as a very valuable defensive presence down low for them, they felt that Jeff Green would infuse some new energy to the team, and plus, at the time, Jeff Green was only 24 years old and was averaging 15 points per game as the third option for the Thunder, so it looked like he'd be a nice building block for the future. As for the Thunder here, Jeff Green's game never really matched well with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. I don't want to say that there were too many similarities in Durant and Jeff Green's games for them to really work together on the court, but that's what the Thunder felt at the time, even though, of course, Jeff Green is nowhere near the level of player that Kevin Durant is. Regardless of that, what the Thunder felt they needed was a defensive center, and so they thought Kendrick Perkins was going to be that center that got them over the hump, that made them a championship caliber team. Of course, they were completely wrong, as were the Boston Celtics. Now, we have to keep in mind that when looking at the Celtics, none of the veterans were happy with this move. Basically, Jeff Green was coming into a kind of hostile environment because the veterans like Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce all loved Kendrick Perkins. They felt that he was a key piece to their team. Kevin Garnett has actually gone on record to say that if Kendrick Perkins was healthy for Game 7 of the 2010 NBA Finals, Garnett thinks the Celtics would have won. So already, this was a tough situation for Jeff Green. I can't imagine what it was like the first time he met Kevin Garnett. I'm gonna assume it didn't go over too well, and Jeff Green's time in Boston in general did not go over well, as in 2011, after averaging 15.2 points per game with the Thunder, Green's numbers would slide down just to 9.8 points per game. Then the following year, he would actually miss the entire season with a heart condition. This led to some forgettable years with the Celtics, and so based on the fact that Boston never really benefited from this trade at all, and based on the fact that they did not win the championship they thought they would win with Jeff Green, it is safe to say this trade did not work out well for them. them, they probably should have kept Kendrick Perkins. As for the Thunder with Kendrick Perkins, well, Perkins would prove to be one of those players that is good in the right system. Surrounded by Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, and Rajon Rondo, with only having the responsibility to really play defense, Perkins was a very solid addition to the Boston Celtics, and he was a key piece in their several playoff runs. However, with the Thunder, it was clear that Kendrick Perkins did not really fit in at all, which was hardly surprising. I mean, just thinking about it, the Thunder had a very young athletic team with Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Serge Ibaka. What they needed was an athletic center that could match that energy, that could run the fast break, that could catch lobs, that fit into the team they were building. Instead, what they got was a center who was used to playing a slower pace of basketball, aka they got a man who really never could catch up to what they were doing on the court. All in all, this trade just did not work out for anyone involved and is actually really forgettable, as both Jeff Green and Kendrick Perkins themselves have had pretty forgettable careers since this trade happened, which in my opinion makes this kind of the perfect trade for this video. No one benefited from it, and really, as NBA history goes on, everyone is going to forget about it. Unless you watch this video, because here, we do not forget. And number one, Deron Williams to the Nets. There was a real time where people believed Deron Williams was better than Chris Paul. Yes, that is a true statement, and of course, fast forward to now, and somehow, Deron has managed to play himself out of the NBA at the age of 33. Which means we have to ask the question here, what went wrong? Well, for the Utah Jazz, Williams was a legitimate top-tier point guard in the league, as in the season before he was traded, he was named second-team All-NBA after averaging over 20 points and 10 assists a game. That is the reason that when the Nets traded away Devin Harris, a rookie Derek Favors, and 2 first-round picks for D. Will, they thought their future was in good hands. However, little did the Nets know that without Jerry Sloan to keep him in check, Deron Williams would basically become a shell of his former self. As in his first 2 full years as a Net, Williams did manage to keep up his scoring, but his efficiency as a shooter and a playmaker both took noticeable dips. Then, by the time his 3rd season came around, well, basically everything crashed and burned. As, despite having a solid cast around him with Joe Johnson, Brook Lopez, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett, D. Will would average just 14 points and 6 assists a night, and would later have his work ethic heavily called into question by both Pierce and Garnett after the Nets were bounced in the 2nd round of the playoffs. So you could see, New Jersey did not exactly get the point guard they thought they were getting, and as for the Utah Jazz, well, at the time it did seem like they had gotten a pretty good return for a player who again was 2nd team All-NBA in the 2010 season, as Devin Harris had previously made an All-Star team, Derek Favors was the 3rd overall pick in the 2010 draft, and the Nets' first-round picks were valuable assets. Unfortunately though, Harris had a fate much similar, if not worse, than Williams, as in the very next season following his lone All-Star year with the New Jersey Nets, Devin's scoring numbers would go down from 21.3 points per game to 11.3. This would be his only season with the Jazz, as he was then traded off to the Atlanta Hawks. As for Derek Favors, he, in all honesty, was a solid player for Utah for years, but was never an all-star talent or even approached that level. A fact that was definitely disappointing for Utah, as Favors was, again, the 3rd pick in the 2010 draft. This was made even more disappointing by the fact that the 2011 Nets pick would actually become pick number 3. And so, when the Jazz took Enes Kanter, they had to believe that either Kanter or Favors would develop into an all-star. Neither of them did. Kanter would spend 3.5 seasons in Utah before being traded away, and then, to finish things off, the Jazz would also end up with Trey Burke, and Trey Burke was out of Utah in just 3 seasons. All of this means to me that it is obvious that both teams did not get what they wanted from this deal. However, at least both franchises are now in very good positions. And thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Remember, I am currently right now streaming at twitch.tv/Mike Korzemba. Come hang, come try to win a free NBA throwback jersey. Other than that, if you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe for more videos. Trust me when I say I have a ton of videos already done. I have countless ideas. This season, I'm going hard. You will see it. The quality quality of the content and the quantity of the content, both are gonna be there. Cannot wait to show you guys. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much for supporting. You're awesome. We all know it. And as always, go to twitch.tv/Korzemba and come hang. And have an awesome day. And cue that music. By the way, if you're still here while the music is cued, here are 2 videos I think you are going to love watching. All you have to do is just click on either one of them on the screen right here. And other than that, guys, again, have a great day and peace.